All right, let's tackle this long division problem. Now, I should mention, it is a long division problem because we're dividing by a quantity that has an x squared. So that's not a linear expression, that's a quadratic, x squared plus 3. So that's why we're going to do long division here. So we're dividing by x squared plus 3, and the first thing I recommend you do is recognize that you're missing a term, you're missing an x term. So I recommend always putting a 0x there for any term that you're missing, kind of like a placeholder. Some people like to just leave a space, but I do better with organization if I actually put a 0x there for that missing term. Now be really careful with this quantity that we're dividing into because it is out of order. Don't let us catch you on that. It's not in the correct order. We've got to start with the term with the highest power. So let's reorder this. That would be 2x to the fourth. That's our highest exponent. Then we would have a minus 3x to the third, a plus 5x squared, minus 7x plus 1. Now notice you're not missing any terms here. It goes from the fourth power to the third, to the second, to the first, to the constant, so we are good to go there. Something else that often helps a lot of my students is I like to sort of put a little line and make a little note like, this is my scratch paper over here. So I'm going to be doing some of my computations that you might do in your head, which is great, but I'm going to write those out over here just to be as clear as possible. So to begin long division, we always begin with the first term here of our divisor, and then we're going to divide that into the first term here. So we're dividing the x squared into 2x to the fourth. X squared divided into 2x to the fourth. So if you simplify, that will give us 2x to the second power. Now remember I said organization is key. So because we have a 2x squared, I'm going to put that on top of the 5x squared in the x squared column. Again, just trying to stay as organized as humanly possible. So we did the division. Now we multiply. We're going to take that 2x squared and we're going to multiply it by the divisor. So 2x squared times x squared is going to be 2x to the fourth. 2x squared times 0x is going to basically be 0, but I'm going to go ahead and write 0x cubed. And then 2x squared times that positive 3 is going to be a positive 6x squared. Now here is the step that you have to be super careful of. It's the subtraction step. I call it my red pen step. I always get out a red pen because I'm subtracting, but I have to realize that I'm subtracting this entire quantity, which means I'm subtracting all three of these terms. So I'm taking this 2x to the fourth minus 2x to the fourth, which subtracts out. And then I have a negative 3x to the third minus 0x to the third, which will just be a negative 3x to the third. Then I have a positive 5x squared minus 6x squared, which gives us a negative x squared. Now, another technique I have seen some instructors use, you're welcome to use this if you like it, for this subtraction step, the red pen step I call it, they often will tell their students, change your subtraction to adding the opposite. So this becomes addition, and then the opposite of positive 2, so that's negative 2. The opposite of this positive 0 would be a negative 0, and the opposite of positive 6 would be negative 6. So if you prefer that, you are welcome to do that, and then you would just add straight down 5x squared plus negative 6x squared. We would still end up here with a negative x squared. Just another technique, another option if you like that. Now the process is going to repeat. We're going to bring down the next term, negative 7x, and start it over. So once again, the first term is x squared, and we're going to divide that into negative 3x cubed. X squared divided into negative 3x cubed simplifies to be negative 3x. Again, staying organized, we'll put that on top of that negative 7x, so it's in the x column, and then we multiply. So we're multiplying that negative 3x by all three of these terms here in our divisor. So negative 3x times x squared is negative 3x cubed. Negative 3x times 0x will just be 0. And again, you could write it as a negative 0x squared or even a positive 0x squared. It's just 0. Negative 3x times positive 3 is negative 9x. We get to that red pen step. I get out my red pen. I'm subtracting this whole quantity, so I like to put those parentheses. And then I very carefully subtract straight down. Negative 3x cubed minus negative 3x cubed, subtract out. We have negative x squared minus 0x squared, so that's just negative x squared. And then be careful on this last one. It's a negative 7x minus a negative 9x. So remember, that's really a negative 7x plus 9x. So we've got a positive 2x here. Once again, if you'd rather change this from subtraction to adding the opposite of that negative 3 would be a positive 3. The opposite of that positive 0 is a negative 0, and the opposite of that negative 9 is a positive 9. If you prefer that, go right ahead. Bring down that positive 1, and here we go, one more time. First term divided into first term. That would be x squared divided into negative x squared, which simplifies to negative 1. Then we're going to multiply that negative 1 by all terms in our divisor. So negative 1 times x squared is negative x squared. Negative 1 times 0x is just 0. You can write 0x if you'd like. And then negative 1 times positive 3 is negative 3. Red pen, subtract very carefully. We've got negative x squared minus negative x squared, which subtracts out. 2x minus 0x is 2x. And then again, be careful here. This is 1 minus negative 3, which of course is 1 plus 3, which will leave us with a positive 4. Now, this entire expression here is our remainder. So to write our final answer is going to be the quotient up here. So this quantity up here is called the quotient. So our quotient is 2x squared minus 3x minus 1. Then plus our remainder, which is 2x plus 4, divided by this quantity out here, which is called the divisor. So the quantity that you're dividing by is your divisor. So it would be 2x plus 4, the remainder, over x squared plus 3. I won't bother writing that 0x. And this will be the format for your final answer.